15 minutes. Share screen.
I think it is sharing. Oh,
Do you know how to do this? Do you know how to record the meeting and all of that? It should be really cool.
your sharing screen.
Okay, so now go back to his screen. Just wherever he was, which I think is right there. Switching slideshow. Be checking it. And then that you should be able to, I don't know if it's touch screens, I don't want to mess it up.
It should be recording from there.
I could.
But you should be able to, there, just hide the thumbnail. Maybe shove it down to the bottom. Let's do that.
I know.
It might not work.
It says you're sharing screen.
It's working. Yeah.
So I think it's working sharing. Yes. Dex, how are you?
All right.
Hey. Y'all hungry?
The rest of the team would be here. They was at another job site.
Good, how you doing?
That's who going on a little thing today. Yeah.
It's fine.
Yes. He may know how to do that. His laptop to connect to the internet. The password's up there on that whiteboard up there. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Rick Bowers, the Executive Director of Green Spaces, and welcome you here for the Lunch and Learn exciting topic. We've got a good crowd. Before we get started, I wanted to introduce to you some newer members of the Green Spaces staff. Cortina and Michael, could you come up here, please? Laura Bass is our new Director of Operations and Finance at Green Spaces. Michael Stroke is the manager of the tree planting program with the grant we have with the city of Chattanooga and other partners, and Cortina Caldwell and Chris Winters will be working with him. Let's give him a round of applause. It's really exciting. Dexter is over here. Dexter and Keita, they run our Build It Green workforce development program over on Glass Street. We've got a few members here. Yeah. And the other members are out of town right now on vacation, so we've got a small staff. Please make sure you sign in before you leave and help yourself to pizza and drinks. And Brian, I don't know if you're ready yet, but I want to introduce Brian Smith. We're so happy to have you here. Thank you so much. Let's give him a big round of applause.
Used to have like a big picture of like who I am and stuff, but that's not me. I've changed since then. So, but anyway. I'm an old TV guy, so I can't just sit up here and talk from a microphone like this. I have to kind of move around a little bit, but first and foremost, welcome everybody. First, I am Brian Smith and I work for the city of Chattanooga. And one of my biggest departments is Parks and Outdoors. And real quickly about what that is, it's actually a fairly new department. You think parks, wait a minute, we've had parks in the city of Chattanooga for well over 100 years. But when you go through different administrations, you go through different ideas and different plans, and we're kind of separated there for a little bit, but then Mayor Tim Kelly came back in and said, we need to put this department back together again. We need to get some good thinkers in here, some good planners in here, and really start to boost up our parks, our recreation programs. And over the last couple of years, that is what we have been working very hard to do so. At the same time, our administrator, Mr. Scott Martin, who is part of our World Urban Parks Congress, he does, sits on the board for a lot of worldwide sort of activities when it comes to parks, came across this concept of a national park city. And that's a little bit about what I want to talk with you here today, is about why Chattanooga is primed to be a national park city, what a national park city is, because I'm pretty sure we have some questions here, and some of the things that we've been doing along the way. There's been a lot of behind the scenes, a lot of things going on in the background, while also at the same time just sort of gathering information and garnering attention, if you will. So I'm going to talk a bit about why we want to do this, and then get into a little bit more about what the National Park City movement is. And a lot of my presentation here is based off of what the city is doing to do this. First and foremost, the city is helping to lead this, but this is not a 100% City of Chattanooga driven initiative. We've got partners, we've got folks that have been helping us out with this, but the city is taking the lead on this. And it all kind of started with a very big question here of what if? I'm going to kind of go through a little bit of a story about some of the things that we did here with the City of Chattanooga, and then now working our way to become a national park city. So first one, Barry Lopez, he's a great nature writer here. Love the quote that he has in here. It says, one of the greatest dreams of man must be to find a place between the extremes of nature and its civilization. I think Chattanooga is probably one of those extremes because we have it all here. We are a growing city, but we have absolutely beautiful places that are in the city and all around the city. You don't need me to tell you that, but we know we do. However, we are starting to see this massive influx, I would say starting to see, but we're already seeing and have been, of folks coming into our city to live. Not only that, we're seeing this happening all across the United States, and really all across the world here. We're seeing our rural population kind of taking a bit of a nosedive, and most people now moving back to cities. Cities are cool again. We had the big urban sprawl where we spread out everywhere, and now we're starting to see people coming back more and more. Frederick Law Olmsted. Y'all familiar with this gentleman here? So he saw this happening several years ago. Says the beauty of a park lies not only in the physical attributes, but the way it nurtures the soul. Very important guy here, because when he was starting out as a landscape architect, which is basically our very first one in the United States, he knew that parks were extremely important and that you should design cities around those parks. Case in point, that's the one that he designed, Central Park. Not only that, but also designed several other ones in Chicago, all the way down to the Biltmore Estate, San Francisco, Gateway Park, which is very similar to this. And even back then, when he was designing this park here, it's gone through all kinds of transformation. Even at one time, it was nothing but a big sheet metal out there. However, he wanted to preserve that land, and the city followed suit by saying, yes, we are going to preserve that land and let everyone else build around it, and this will be for the enjoyment of those in the city. Here's that same sheet metal today. I don't know how many of those people know that sheep were out there grazing where they were sitting there having a picnic. And then we had a gentleman that was kind of an understudy of Mr. Olmsted, and his name was John Nolan. If y'all look at this map here, does that look kind of familiar? Not very many people see this map as sort of oriented in this way, but that is Chattanooga back in the early 1900s. John Nolan was one of our very first city planners and was very much into parks. And this is the idea that he had in the Chattanooga Central Core, because remember, most people outside of Chattanooga were not living out past Missionary Ridge. If you notice in the pictures up here, all the green areas are the parks that he wanted to build at his time while he was here in Chattanooga. You can see the Riverwalk. You can see, it looks like right along Chattanooga Creek there. Right in the middle of the screen, we have the cemetery, National Cemetery, which was already here. To the left of it, Montague Park, which was given to the city back in the early 1900s, designed to become a park. And then off to the right of that, we have Warner Park, which is one of our oldest parks here in the city. One thing that he was very much wanting to do was make sure that there was parks there for everybody. And this is where it got a little bit more controversial for Mr. John Nolan. Over there at the bottom right, we got Lincoln Park, we got more parks a bit further off to the south and west. At that time, he pushed very hard to put those parks in those areas that were predominantly African American areas. And he was kicked out for that. He lost his job and moved on. Since then, thankfully, we've been able to work our way through that. However, we know there are still some disparities when it comes to our parks and our programs. You look at Chattanooga, some of the historic parks that we have. Anybody know what the park this one is? There we go, East Lake, our oldest park in Chattanooga. Used to be the Chattanooga Zoo. Beautiful parks that we have here in Chattanooga, but as we grew and continued to grow, we ran into a bit of a problem. We all know this problem here, being called the dirtiest city in America back in the 70s. And we have done an incredible amount of things to make sure that we clean up the city of Chattanooga. And I love this picture here. This happened just a couple days ago at Pops on the River. I sent my drone up there and I said, parks are for people. Parks matter because people matter. And you can see the thousands of people that gather right there in the lawn of Coolidge Park, getting ready to watch the fireworks. It's amazing the amount of people that want to come back downtown to enjoy our parks here. And if anything, we didn't have enough room because of the amount of people that wanted to come down. But it was an amazing day. So we go back to Barry Lopez. How do we kind of intertwine Mother Nature and the city? And the city over the course of several years has done a pretty good job of trying to work in history along with our natural history as well as growing. You have places like over here at Ross's Landing, the Aquarium Plaza. You've got the bridge that we saved, and we're going to be working on it again here soon, but beautiful Coolidge Park. I mean, just the shapes and the structures here in Chattanooga, from the aquarium all the way to Lookout Mountain in the background. We've done a very good job. Over the course of several years, yes, we've been named the best place in Outside Magazine twice. We notice that there are so many people, according to studies by UTC, that are moving here to enjoy recreation, quality of life, quality of things, right up there at the very top. So we know people are moving here to the city of Chattanooga for all of these attributes. It's a great thing. So we need to start rethinking again how we want to embrace our natural beauty, our parks, and get people thinking about how they can do more for their parks, how they can embrace the parks that we do have and do so, you know, with the equal mind, with equity on their mind as well. So the most powerful creative engines of humanity, and it's also a tough place to maintain humanity. How do you do both? Also, at the same time, with everybody coming here to the city of Chattanooga to enjoy all our natural resources, we're busier than we ever have been before. We're all glued to our phones here. Look at this study. Several years ago, in the year 2000, we had a 12-second average attention span. Now look at me. We're right now at the time of a goldfish. You know, that's how busy we are. And on top of that, when we finally just get tired of looking at our phones, get tired of listening to everything else that's going around us, we're at our breaking point. We need some place to go and to rest and to get away from some of the stress from every day. And at the same time, even though we have the amount of recreation that we do here in the city of Chattanooga, we're also growing in another way. You can see the picture there. And we also want to make sure that we have places for folks to activate, whether it is something that's on their mind, or it is a protest, or it is just an event to come together. Parks are for that. But we also need to make sure we have parks that are inviting so people will want to come down and have a less stressful day, that will want to come down and, you know, be able to organize and have an event. They need to be attractive. And we've kind of fallen back here a little bit with that. Yes, we've got some great parks. We also have several locations that are not looking so great either. And usually really at the end of the day, we all work very hard. We just want to go someplace at the end of our day to sit back, relax, rewind, have a place for our families to go. And instead, we're finding places more and more like this. That's Lookout Creek. Yes, we are finding ways to clean it up, but can we do more so that that tired person can go out and enjoy without having to face messes like this? Or get there on time. Love this picture here because you're stuck in traffic and, you know, here it says you're never gonna get to work on time. We think of it as that you're never gonna get to the park before the sun goes down because you're stuck in traffic at the end of your long, hard day. And on top of that, we're getting warmer each and every year. I don't think you need me to tell you all that, but it's hot. We're looking at probably a very hot summer. We've already hit 100 degrees a couple times. Urban heat islands are a real thing. All the concrete, all the buildings, they emit immense amounts of heat. Trees, parks, they help prevent that. And some of our species continue to decline as well. So here's the provocation that we're trying to do here when it comes to the city of Chattanooga and our national park city. What if we worked at scale? What if we really all came together for the amount of people that are coming in, provided the services and upkeep and volunteering and even the money that's needed to do this, working at the same pace to catch up with the amount of people that are coming in and also everyone that lives here. And we got to think too, what if people no longer had to go to nature, but instead they were able to live in nature? Why don't we think of cities, you know, what if cities don't just have parks, but they were a city in a park? And that's one of our main goals here when it comes to the city of Chattanooga, is trying to express the amount of nature and beauty that we have in our city limits. Not only for us, here we have the urban fox here. Urban life is not worthless. Nature makes us better. Cities can thrive for people and wildlife. And people have the power in the cities to provide not only for the wildlife, but for us as well. Our animals adapt. Farming, we're seeing a big decline there. What are some of the cities doing to catch up with that? How about some of the cities over in Europe that are doing more and more farming on top of some of the buildings? We've seen a little bit of that around here. Sometimes it's hard to take our trip up to the Smoky Mountains. Not everybody can afford to go do that. Nobody has the time to do that. Can we be able to provide something like that here in Chattanooga? What if we're going down our streets and we see more and more growth like this along our streets? Things that we can already do without having to change infrastructure all the way around. There might be some codes, there might be some things here and there that we could talk to homeowners and business owners, but can we do something like this to make our city even more vibrant and green? Just getting away, something that is peaceful with our trees. We are blessed to be a Tree City USA, but can we add more? Yeah. City of Chattanooga and some of our partners were just awarded $6 million to plant more trees and set up more programs here in the city of Chattanooga to add to our trees, because we're losing them daily. We're going to continue to build, but if we can plant more and more along the way, that's what we're going to try to do. And also having places for animals. Now, I've seen connectors like this. This might be a bit of an extreme when it comes to here in the city of Chattanooga, but can we find corridors or places for our wildlife to thrive here in the city of Chattanooga? We may not be able to build something like this, but one thing that we are trying to do is we have a natural resources team that is turning more and more parks or areas of parks into native gardens and native meadows. We're getting ready to open a native meadow over by Lupton City, over by the old Lupton Mills. It's expensive for us to put in a big, massive park with a playground, but what can we do that's a nice meadow, something that's native grass, something that's also for wildlife to embrace? City of Collegedale does a pretty good job with this. We've got culverts everywhere. How do we get through? Do we get people to walk up and over roads? Or do we make them wide enough that people can actually walk through or bike through? If you ever go on the Greenway over in Collegedale, they've got a couple of these that you actually take your bike through. So as we continue to design and think about things, how do we connect everybody with our greenways, with our trails? And if a road has to be built in between, can we make it to where folks can still get underneath that? So these are some of the ideas that we're thinking about. And I get to the National Park City here in a minute. And when it comes to the wildlife that we have it everywhere. Matter of fact, we got the folks over at UTC to do a big study for us to go around the entire city here and try to find where are the hot spots for wildlife in our city. It took them hours and hours and hours and hours to figure out where those hot spots were. And this is what they came up with. Everywhere. So you start thinking and looking and saying, what are these hotspots? What are some places here? And it's an amazing amount of wildlife we have. Since then, we did a little bit more study on migratory birds and talking with people. There's a website out there called eBird that people go on and post what birds they have seen in different locations. Anybody want to guess which is one of the top places in the region for bird watching and migratory birds? What was that? Raven's House? No. Tennessee River. That sounds logical one. I'll give you one more guess. Chattanooga, very good. Number one on the list, Brainerd Levee. Brainerd Levee blocked off so that Walmart and all those shops don't flood anymore. But nevertheless, you've got the South Chick Creek that's running right through there, and you have the meadows there. So what has the Chattanooga done? We started looking at the migratory birds that were coming through. Public Works and everybody else were going through and mowing often down there because, you know, that's what we're supposed to be doing. That's what we have been doing. Now that we've learned the amount of birds that are coming through and nesting and staying and hanging out in that area, we've now instituted a no-mow program. We only mow twice a year out there. Things that we're doing to change to allow wildlife to be a part of our city. And now you go out there and you meet people with big humongous camera lenses and you ask them where they're from. I'm from Denver, I'm from San Diego. They're coming from all over the country to stand right there at Brainerd Levee to check out some of the birds. Now, due to radar and all this great technology that we have, we're able to see how many birds are flying over Chattanooga and Hamilton County. This past fall, we set one of the all-time records. 14 million birds flew over in a 24-hour span over Hamilton County. They're stopping by here. They're embracing some of these areas. And that's not the only one, Brainerd Levee. You also have Amnicola Marsh, which is right up there as well. So not only do we have places that wildlife, and we have, parks are very important. We also have that want and desire to explore. Jimmy Chan, he's an adventurer, makes movies, documents, what am I trying to say? Yeah. I really believe, documentaries. There you go, thanks, Amy. I really believe that as human beings, we have an innate need to explore and to see what is around the corner. So, explore, recreation. Can we do that here in the city? We asked UTC to do another study with that, and of course, here's the answer they gave us. Everywhere around town, we can do wonderful recreational opportunities. Again, all of us cannot go out there and try to climb Half Dome. But can we do some climbing here in the city of Chattanooga? How many of you know that we could do climbing right underneath the Walnut Street Bridge? We're out there yesterday doing climbing and holding classes. Can we expand on this? Can we do even more of this? Possible. Yes, and I believe we are. But there's that opportunity. We have camps, hundreds of kids that are coming through having a chance to do rock climbing. We have great places downtown that are doing the same thing. London is now taking some of its tallest buildings and adding more and more climbing walls to it. Why not? London doesn't have mountains to go climbing around on. Can we do this in downtown? The Ocoee River, beautiful rivers that we have around here, but not everybody can go out there and do that. Can we think about having that same kind of adventure here in Chattanooga? What about paddling just on lunch breaks here in downtown Chattanooga? We just, along with Trust for Public Land, got access to put in a new ramp right along the South Chickamauga Creek Greenway that's going to go from Shalford Road down to Sturkey Farm. Last Friday, a group of us went down that, and I've been down there before, but it's got some beautiful rapids. You've got beautiful trees, hardwood trees. On top of that, you've got the greenway that goes right along it and train on the other side. They may not have the class 3 rapids of the Ocoee, but it's still a wonderful afternoon trip that you could take. And even my boss was on the phone doing business stuff. So I kind of think the old saying where you're out doing golfing and some of your best deals are while you're playing golf. It's the same thing while you're floating down the river. But we got to provide access for people like that, for people to go out there and do those things. Along the way, while we're building, like the Brainerd Levee, we put a massive sewer pipe right in the middle of the way. Now we're looking at ways that we can either get around that pipe, elevate the pipe. That way we can open it up from Catoosa County all the way to the Tennessee River. Things that we on the way have thought about, but just have not been together as a group to say, let's do this. Let's finally make this change. I love this one here, volleyball. We got sports out there, but how do we, involve nature? How do we think of our city as a park? What if when we did the riverfront, that we were able to put a floating volleyball court out there on the river. Possible, it's doable. And these are things that we're looking at and possibly considering. Mountain biking, lots of mountain biking trails around here. Not everybody has a way to transfer their mountain bike around. What do we have programs that we could do some mountain biking within the city? We're looking at some options like this. Not everywhere, and obviously there have to be some controlled access, but it certainly is a possibility. Hiking. Places like Miami don't have mountains to go hiking in, so they have an urban hiking program. They got all the gear, and they go out and they have certain trails that they're going around hiking all throughout the city and learning about different parts of the city while they're doing it. And of course, making sure that we remember our history, remember our elders, remembering the folks that were before us, getting our kids more involved. We've got a lot of great agencies that go out and talk with kids, but more and more of our stewardship programs, rangers in schools, some of our programs in schools, getting the kids to understand how important nature is. There are a lot of times when we do go and talk with schools and we talk about, littering and making sure you pick up and some of the wildlife, but really getting them out there and understanding how important nature is. I love this one here, swim lessons. We're seeing a lifeguard shortage, but are there any pools closing left and right? But is there a way that maybe we can activate the river? So when we're designing the riverfront downtown, and if that comes to fruition, maybe there's a way that we can do swim lessons and activate the rivers downtown, giving people more and more access. So the idea here is if we wait for government to do it, it's going to take forever to do it. We all know this. There's nothing that I can hide from when it comes to that. But we can do something like this together. So this gets into the National Park City concept here. This is a gentleman named Daniel Ray Ellison, who is a National Geographic explorer, has been all around the world and has done many stories. You can watch him now. Lives in London. He came back to London and said, I've gone all around the world. I've seen magnificent places. I've never really done any stories about my own city, about exploring the natural wonders, nature, things that you could do within my city of London. So he came up with the idea of what is called National Park City. He created a foundation called the National Park City Foundation. And the basic idea of that is treating our city like it's its own little national park. Not necessarily the same codes and regulations of a national park, but just kind of thinking my city is like its own little park. I can go here and do this. I can go there and do that. I can do recreation. I can go boating. I may not have the extremes of some of these other locations, but there's still plenty of things to do within the city. The very first one, of course, is going to be his. And that was London National Park City. He started all this back in 2019, and then we had that old pandemic thing and things got slowed down. So now more and more cities are latching back onto this, thinking, how can I get folks to think about my city as a park? London became number one. The next city was Adelaide, Australia. And Adelaide kind of did a bit of a different approach. While they go with Green Adelaide, they really wanted to dive into the history that they had there in Australia and really embracing that. And since then, over the last couple of years, we've had about 20 cities in the United States that have applied for this, and several other cities across the world that have looked into becoming its own national park city and have applied for it. But only 5 have been nominated according to the National Park City Foundation: Rotterdam, Glasgow, Southampton, and Breda. Breda's getting ready to be the next national park city. They're a little bit ahead of us. They also came over here in the United States and looked at cities like Sacramento and Louisville and Albuquerque and some other cities here, and none of them qualified except for one city in the United States, here in Chattanooga. What they looked at is not only do we have all the natural beauty, but the amount of history that we have here, the amount of recreation that we have really within our city limits, let alone the Thrive region, which is all around us. How we're working with National Park Service, with our battlefields to Orchard Knob to working on Moccasin Bend. So these world leaders, including Daniel himself, kind of looked at all these different areas and said, all right, Chattanooga, y'all have it, but there are some things that you would need to work on to be qualified. And that is what we're doing right now. So Chattanooga became the first nominee in the United States for a national park city. So we asked, I'm not sure if this is gonna play. Uh-oh. All right, so basically what Mayor Kelly is saying is, what if Chattanooga, is it on mute? Do I have a mute up here? Top right, top right.
Oh, yeah, you were so close. Go, get a little bit more, filter.
Yeah, I don't guess I can see that. Might be the projector. All right, anyway. Well, Mr. Ben here made this really awesome video, and we see people, representatives from Reflection Riding. We got Mark up there, we got Tricia, we're National Park Partners, Scott, who is our administrator. And basically what we're saying in this particular video here is, what if people did not have to travel to find these historical places? What if people did not have to go long distances for arts and culture that means something to them? What if we had pollinator gardens here? This is Crabtree Farms. That's been a partner of the National Park Cities as well, with Melanie there. Thinking, can we do more urban gardening? Can we expand some of the programs? Mark's saying, what if we really restored a lot of our areas back to native plants, like right here in Renaissance Park, utilizing goldenrod there. So overall, that's what the video is. And then we have Carmen Davis, who is part of our arts, culture, and creative economy, talking about how we can get together to embrace more of our public art and just utilizing our parks more and more. So what is a national park city? So national park cities are an inspiring way to rethink cities, their futures, how we inhabit them. National park cities are about the whole place in the landscape where everyone can be involved and help make a difference to improve city life for nature and people alike. Very nice long definition. Our vision here in Chattanooga is to be a robust national park city where humanity and wildlife does coexist in harmony, fueling our communities. It's not just close to nature itself, but we're talking about 12,000 years, embracing what has come before us. And as we think going towards the future here, you know, I can kind of read the rest here. So what we have been doing is, after we were nominated back in November, we have been working together to put together a charter, to put together a website, working with some of our partners like Tennessee Aquarium, all the way to REI, Crabtree Farms, Reflection Riding, UTC, and the list goes on. They kind of come up with a bit of a charter and idea of what we can do now and what we can do as we move along going into the future. Why are we doing this? Because we want to share learning practices, ideas, and resources with people, not only here, but throughout the city and in other urban areas, joining collective campaigns and projects, growing our personal and professional network with our leagues and colleagues here in Chattanooga and also across the world. It's great to be internationally known, inspire people with same visions, from backyards to small and large businesses. Disrupt harmful structures, systems, and activities, as we're building and doing things going to the future, trying our best to make sure we do those correctly. And using the shared national park city vocabulary to help create common understanding between people and different backgrounds. Basically doing all of this together and sharing some of the great stories that we have. As I simply put this, we have 3,000 nonprofits here in the city of Chattanooga that are all doing absolutely wonderful things. The good news is we have that many. The bad news is that we have that many and people just don't know where to go, what people are doing. We got great places that are helping to clean up the river. We have stewards that are helping to volunteer at our parks. We've got, the list goes on, but how do we come together and share that story so that the rest of the world, the rest of the country knows the things that we're doing here in the city of Chattanooga? It is hard to just kind of Google and say who's doing what. How do we come together and do that? Our charter here, we have 7 points when it comes to our charter. Number one, we want to work together for unrivaled access to nature, a culture of outdoor activity, environmental stewardship and education, inclusive and sustainable development, community and cultural enrichment. We want to make sure everybody is represented. Food and agriculture, more and more growing of whether it's local foods, local agriculture. Can we do that? Can we embrace that even here in the city? And arts and creativity. These are our main goals to try to work on this together. However, when it comes to Chattanooga, we can sit there and preach all this and say, we need to do this, we need to do better at that, and so on. we have things here in the city of Chattanooga that we need to work on as well. So a couple of things that we have been doing in the meantime, now that our department's kind of come back together, is number one, fix some of the things that we have. We can always put out another park, and there are some that are coming on that are gonna be brand new. But also there has been a far cry for, let's just fix some of the things we have. I can tell you this, the capital budget for this year is one of the largest capital budgets we've ever had in the city of Chattanooga. And it's gonna go out and fix things like our water fountains, our gutters, some of our shelters that are just not in great shape. So it's not gonna be nearly as noticeable as a brand new park, but it is fixing a lot of the things that we have and doing it fairly. We're not taking $17 million and putting it towards Coolidge Park. We're looking at what can we do for Carver Park? What can we do for Boulevard Park, which is our lowest rated park? We just opened up a brand new playground at our lowest rated park because the folks that live around that area deserve a nice place to play and have a playground as well. That's number one of our initiative. Number two, create a neighborhood initiative. We want to hear from the people that live in these neighborhoods. We don't want to sit in the office and try to create parks that we think are going to be great. We want to hear from some of the neighborhoods. There's a case study that happened up in Murfreesboro where there was Section 8 housing, and they thought, wow, it's a great idea. We heard from everybody. Let's put in a big, massive pickleball court complex there. You know, it didn't work, and it was like, can't force things. Why not just hear what the people in these neighborhoods want? Because they're the ones that are going to be utilizing that park. Oh, and on top of that, since then, we now have a park advisory committee made up of all of our districts, including a couple of folks that have been appointed by Mayor Kelly himself. We meet monthly. Matter of fact, we've got a meeting tomorrow over at the sculpture fields, and we run plans through them. We run ideas, initiatives through them, and we want to hear their feedback because they represent the neighborhood along with the council members. We want to continue to invest in our signature parks. Yes, we want to fix our little parks, but we also want to make sure that we do invest in the big ones as well. We make a lot of money off of tourism. A lot of it goes to Nashville, and we're trying to rearrange it so we can get more here in the city of Chattanooga. That's all mayor stuff. But nevertheless, we want to make sure that we continue to invest in our signature park and our sports. Softball here in Chattanooga, $33 million economic boost each and every year. It's a lot of softball players coming through here. We want to build more links. We just got $6.5 million to add to the Alton Park connector. We want to connect as many of these trails together so that we don't have to keep hopping in our cars and driving around. Not only that, we want to make sure that these trails are accessible for all abilities. And you see at the top right up there, the South Chickamauga Creek, creating more creek access so that people can utilize the creek without having to traverse through people's property or find dangerous ways to get into that water. And we also want to sustain healthier urban ecology landscapes and cultural stories. When we build some of these parks, when we open up some of these areas, make sure that we honor the history that is there. I'll tell you this, on Friday, this Friday, there's a little piece right along the South Chickamauga Creek Greenway called the Shallowford Oxbow. It's hard for anybody to walk to it, but we're getting ready to take that land, which is already city owned, and now transferring it over to the Parks and Outdoors Department, about 27 acres of land that we're now going to get in there. We're going to clean it up. We got archaeologists that they come and look at some mysterious hills that are there. We're also going to create access down the road from the creek so that folks can walk on this preserve and see what kind of history is there, what kind of hardwoods are there. And so taking some of the city-owned land and also those that are willing to donate land to us and preserve that for future parks, whether they're passive parks or they're very active parks. So where are we on the process of the National Park City? Those are some of the things that the city of Chattanooga is doing, but working with our partners like the Tennessee Aquarium again. 95% of the people go down there and see awesome, beautiful fish, but have no idea that on the other side of the river, they are raising fish to put back into our streams and putting back into our river. A sturgeon release they just did a couple months ago right there at Coolidge Park. So embracing what they're doing, learning about what they're doing and sharing those stories. So right now we have just finished the charter and we're asking folks to sign up for that charter, which is the 7 points that I just showed you. We're also in the process of making our case, growing our community and securing support. That is getting out and getting more and more people to sign our charter, get more and more people involved, our partners involved, sharing their stories, and doing this kind of as a collective page of all the great things that we have going on in Chattanooga. We're working with a local writer. That's just kind of a brief little intro that he did here. The journey book, if you will, is required. That journey book just says, what have we done here in Chattanooga? What are we proud of? And what are some of these 3,000 nonprofits that we have in the city are doing to make Chattanooga a better place, a more livable place, and sharing some of those stories. And this is something that's going to continue to be added on to for years to come. Right now, this is about 28 pages long, and there's several different agencies that we have yet to even gone and interview. And some of these are nonprofits, some of these are individuals, some of these are churches, some of these are for-profits, from Grace Episcopal Church and their backyard garden to the Barn Nursery, maybe making a little bit more of an emphasis on selling native plants at the Barn Nursery. So these are some of the ideas and things that we're trying to do at Chattanooga. After we are done with the journey book, and we're done with some of the other requirements for this, they have this big, long assessment that is created by a few folks from the United States, National Recreation Park Association, World Urban Parks, National Geographic. They all go and judge and look at this journey book and the stories that we've created. And they go through this big, long assessment. We're kind of going through a little bit of this right now. And they kind of grade us. You know, are you planting enough native meadows in the area? Are you doing enough to combat obesity? You know, are you doing enough to combat crime? One thing that Europeans looked at us when we started doing this is they were amazed at the amount of money that we spend towards our police force and jails and versus how much we spend for our parks. Now, granted, they have a much higher tax base over there, but here we spend very little on our parks. And unfortunately, you have to spend a lot more on our police and jails. So they look at that and say, well, what can we do to sort of combine those and help that out? And those are things that we continue to look at. What is needed after we go through that assessment over the next 4 or 5 months? In the meantime, we're also looking to garner 5,000 signatures on our charter. We have about 2,300 on there right now since late April. So we kind of been talking about it, but then late April, we started putting out a bit more of a push. We also need to have 100 events. We've had over 60 events so far. And that is whether it's an event just solely for National Park City, or it is Crabtree Farms having their annual plant sale, and we're out there as part of it. So we've been working on that and doing that as well. We're asking for folks out there to share stories of things that they're doing to make Chattanooga a healthier, wilder, and more active city. Individual stories, individual organizations. We are gathering those stories, whether it is part of our journey book or put on our website that shares what some of these great organizations and individuals are doing, and basically sharing those ideas. We want people to log onto this in Hickson and go on and find out, wow, we're raising red wolves over in Lookout Valley. We want people that look at Grace Episcopal Church and go, I didn't realize that we had a garden there, and I would like to start one. And that's happened. We already have now a new one near Carruthers Park, where they're looking at doing more gardening behind the church there. So our website is ChattanoogaNationalParkCity.org. There's the QR code as well. When you go on there, it's kind of a limited website. We're in the middle of phase 2 now that will be debuting here soon. But on this website, it talks a little bit about what the process is, a little bit about what National Park City is, and how folks can get involved. Not only that, there's a way that you can post your own programs, your own events on here as well. I go to some of these talks, and one of the big questions is, you know, we just did one with one of our economic or our outdoor economy seminars, where we had several for-profits that were in there. And one of them was like, I wish we had a place that we can go that everyone has sort of shared like-minded ideas, that people can hear about my trout fishing store just as much as what REI sells or what other organizations. Where's a place, a one-stop shop that can share all that information and all the events that we're doing? We're never going to take over Facebook, but when you go on there and look at an event, everything gets kind of lost in that shuffle. Where's a place that you can go to see some of these community events? We started this community page for Earth Week. We wanted to do an entire week, not just one day. Ended up having like 60 events on there. Classes, get-togethers, volunteer days. And now you can go on there and just see this long list of activities and things that are going on from several different organizations. You don't have to pay anything to be on this. You just log in and you add your event to it, like the event today. It's on there. Also, we have workshops and we have swag. So when we have workshops, we're talking to community members, community leaders to say a little bit more of an intimate setting of what this is, what this means, so that you can go back out into your neighborhood, into your area and say, hey, Chattanooga's trying to do this thing that's pretty cool. And here are some of the talking points, and here are some of the printouts that you can use and you can share. We've also got koozies and shirts. I brought shirts for y'all today when y'all sign up on the charter. So I got some shirts, we got posters and things like that we're out there handing out as well. And then hopefully, as we get 5,000 signatures, they're planning on coming back here around November to kind of do a survey of just everyday folks and asking them, have you heard about National Park City? What do you think about the concept of a national park city? And they're gonna kind of just look around, ask people, see what our journey book, compare some of the stories that we have written in there, and give us the overall official naming of Chattanooga National Park City. And that is our goal here for November of 2024. In the meantime, for Chattanooga Parks and Outdoors, that is our website, which is chattanooga.gov/parks. Now, I'm pretty sure y'all probably have a few questions, but I kind of wanted to run through real quickly a little bit about what the National Park City concept is. And really, when you kind of break it down, after we receive it, what does that mean? Well, first off, on that charter, we want to make sure that us as a city and the partners that we're working with are committed to that charter. It's a very broad charter that just wants to have a great place for Chattanooga to live. But when we have businesses that are coming in, they look and see, well, what does this National Park City thing mean? Hopefully they'll look onto it and say, okay, this city is really doing some great things to make sure their city is as healthy and green, as wild as possible. When you are applying for grants, and you are able to put on there that you are a part of a Chattanooga National Park City, that's hopefully going to raise eyebrows. And someone looks and says, well, what does that mean? And you're applying for that grant, they click on that website and they see the number of things that Chattanooga is doing. And hopefully that elevates your chance of getting that much needed grant because they're willing to give to a city that cares about its own city. Once we get this, National Geographic is going to come over and do stories with us. Daniel Ray Ellison comes over and does stories about our city and how the amount of things that we're doing, whether it's recreation, how we're embracing our natural beauty, some of the organizations that are doing great things to keep this city thriving and alive, and doing stories with that as well. To y'all, it's no cost. Only thing that we are looking for is just people to join into this journey, signing that charter, sharing those stories with each other. We're all going to get out there and compete for the same grants, compete for some of the same things. But if we had just that list of here's all the people that are working to save our waters here in Chattanooga. Here's all the folks that are working for responsible growth here in Chattanooga. Here's everyone that's working for native plants or arts and culture. And that is what we're kind of doing in the background here, is getting everyone together to share some of those similar ideas on one big page, so that when someone can come and look and see everything that Chattanooga is doing, they're able to hopefully be impressed. So that answers a little bit about why we're doing it too, in a nutshell. Y'all have some more questions? Yes, sir.
Traditionally, Chattanooga's paid a lot of attention to all the tourist parks.
Yep.
And pretty much let the other ones slide.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do to make sure the next economic downturn don't back to that, just pay attention to the tourist parks?
We have to do both, and we're going to do both. So we have to put money back into Coolidge Park, places like Coolidge Park. We are going to redo the Walnut Street Bridge. Thankfully, that's a massive federal funding that's helping out with that, and also the hotel motel tax that's helping out with that. But restoring some of our most precious parks downtown, we're going to continue to work and help out with that. There's money set aside for that. And we continue to ask, and we're going to each and every year to say, look, for capital, we want to make sure that we continue to invest in our downtown tourist areas just as much as we want to invest in some other areas. Washington Hills, way out there on Highway 58. We had an opportunity, and I mentioned this about Boulevard Park, we had an opportunity to receive a brand new playground by Playcore here in town. And there are certain places that they can put that. We want to put it out of Washington Hills, way out there, near Harris. Somebody here downtown, it's like, why does that matter? Because they deserve a great place to be as well. So yes, our commitment is to try to be as equal as possible across the board. Yes, there'll be a little bit more money for downtown just because things might cost a little more and those parks are bigger, but we want to make sure we try to be as equal as possible going forward. And that's really what our Parks and Outdoors plan talks about. So if you go to our website now, you'll see Parks and Outdoors plan as a plan for the next 25 to 50 years. That does speak to that point.
You mentioned there's like 45 or something that, you know, wanted or going for it. Is there a certain number they do a year? How many are we like competing against? Is that how it works?
So there's a goal of 25 cities by 2025. Probably not gonna be able to do that. So now they're looking at hopefully having that 25 cities by 2030. Lots of times it's getting the governments in a lot of these cities to latch on, making sure they have the capacity to do it. Some governments just say, we're gonna do it, like the Netherlands. I mean, you know, their government kind of controls everything, and they're saying, we're gonna do this, and we're gonna be a part of this. In America, it's a little bit different because we have a lot more freedoms and a lot more we need to kind of get together to be able to do this. So they're giving us a pretty good chance of us trying to get together as much as possible. And we hope to have more cities on board as well. Like I said, Sacramento's not too far behind us. Louisville is not that far behind us as well. They have not been nominated, but they're still wanting to do this, and they might be part of the next go around. So if we don't do this here within the next year, they may latch on and beat us. Like, yeah,
If we,
yeah, yes. And you know, we're not walking over there with a journey book and saying, this is Chattanooga, we're perfect, nominate us. They know that it is a journey book that has the journey of where we have been, where we are now, and the journey that we are gonna continue to face as we go into the future. I think what they're looking at is that y'all have done enough to qualify and be one now, and do your best to continue to go on those goals. Sort of the same thing with national parks here in our, in our beautiful country. Great places, but obviously they have massive battles and challenges that they have to face going ahead as well. So, and National Park Service does endorse this. It is a very close name because Daniel loves the national parks. But they call them something different over there, so we thought the name would be cool. Unfortunately, it's very close to ours, but National Park Service has written us a letter, said, we're good with that, just don't use our branding. So, which makes sense. You have a question back there? Do we have any plans to put parks in places where there are not any parks? Yeah. Absolutely. One problem is finding that land that is either owned by somebody and they're willing to work with us to turn that into a park. We've done a few of these already and we've had some no's. And then we've had some that are willing. So like the South Chickamauga Creek entrance right there, that was owned by somebody else, that parking lot and that entrance. So we, Trust for Public Land, worked out a deal with them so that we could go in there and put in a ramp. So one thing that Chattanooga did is when we expanded past that John Nolan plan and we got out past the Missionary Ridge, thankfully, there were a couple parks that were put in, but as we got further out, like East Brainerd, got one park out there. And if it wasn't for the family giving us that park, Heritage Park wouldn't be there. It'd just be another business. Greenway Farm, beautiful place. The Spangler family gave that to us. Had that not happened, who knows what would be there? Probably be a nice big neighborhood. So we are working with people to connect trails and try to find as many more parks as possible. There are about 6 out there that we have planned. I can't tell you all of them, but there's about 6 out there that we are working with people in different areas. And for some that we just don't have the money to create a brand new park, that's where those preserves are coming in. Like Shalapa Preserve that we'll announce this Friday, like Lupton Hills, where we can't put in a big humongous park, but it's a nice meadow. And then maybe with some funding down the road, that can be turned into even a bigger park. So we want to do that. We want to get out as much as possible as well from downtown.
We're,
So that's working with National Park Partners as they are trying to save Moccasin Bend and trying to work out something to have a place for the facility there to go, but then also restore that into a national park. So Save the Bend, she put a sticker on there and I've never been able to get that off, which is number one reason why. But that is also just a concept of trying to garner signatures and support, both financially and just overall support, to take Moccasin Bend and turn it back into a full-fledged archaeological park. Now, obviously, there's a business there too, and we're trying to work best with them to find a solution for them too, if they were to move.
Years ago, but they done nothing about the status moving the shooting.
I do not know enough to answer that question. Yes, it has been talked about, and especially with the bend that's coming as well, the development there. But as far as any movement with it, I don't know, and would be afraid to answer anything untrue. Any other questions? I'll go hit you with the city questions. All right. Well, I appreciate that. What I'm gonna do for you guys all leave is I'm gonna pass these out. So I'm gonna start right here. And I'm gonna pass these out. This is a little bit more about the Chattanooga National Park City. It's got the QR code and everything as well. You can stuff it in your pocket, your purse, wallet, whatnot as well. That way you go online, learn a little bit more. This is a process that is continuing to build, so it's not, you go on, you see the website and might be missing the next section. We're working on that. More and more partners are joining in. If you're a partner that's interested in it, you can log on, you can put your name and your organization that's in there. If you have an event that's coming up, you'd like for us to come out and have a booth and set up, we've got volunteers that do that, including myself and Sophia. And other folks that can come out and sit at a table and explain this a little bit more. If you got folks in your neighborhood that are just, trying to create a native garden in their yard and it looks really awesome and they have a great story, we want to do that. We've got a story, and I was going to talk to Mr. Ben here about this, of a young lady who's blind and is growing a garden in her backyard. And it's a great story, an inspirational story. I want to get that out and share that with the next person so that maybe they can do it. Like I mentioned, Grace Episcopal, and I cannot remember the one by Carruthers Park, some of the things that they're doing. And then you have in your mind, what if 10% of our churches did gardens? I mean, the list can go on and on. So did you have a question back there, sir? Have an event to talk about. There we go. Number one already. Any other questions before I say thank you? All right. I love it. National Park City, more and more, you'll continue to hear more and more about it. We're gonna have a bigger push too as we come towards fall. Just before some of the folks from World Urban Parks comes over and visits us, and National Recreation Parks Association visits us as well. In the meantime, we're just doing a lot of behind the scenes. And then in front, just kind of signing and getting as many people to sign the charter as possible and building our website so that we can share the stories. Those are our biggest goals. Also, too, for those that do sign up the charter, I do have some shirts that are over here free. So I've got some larges, some couple mediums, extra larges, I think a few 2X's as well. So you're welcome to have some shirts on us. And that was actually from my donation. So we appreciate that. And thank you. Thanks for y'all listening to me today and having fun. Thanks for whoever got the pizza too. That was awesome. Was the pizza good? Yeah. All right. I love it. All right. I'm gonna go back over here and help Sophia.
This is a comment.
Yeah.
If your international people are walking along the river walk across from the shooting range, and there's active shooting, that would be an enormous negative.
Mhm.
I've already had that experience.
All the way
with
to
people.
taking trash out too. Yeah. I mean,
No.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
No, it's way, there is trash in Europe.
Yeah.
But there's not a shooting range. It's a big problem.
I know they're having discussions. I'm not privy to those, so I don't know. That's why I couldn't answer that one. But yeah, that's all right. That's fair enough. That's up. Okay. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you. Okay.
City. It's just a solid place that said to have lunch or.
Yeah.
And then I have little stations too, it's another city, but it's just little stations, you go to the city, like, it's good. There's so
That's cool.
about what you're doing.
Yeah.
Then, like, a good understanding. Now it's good, Jackson. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate it. That's kind of a brief synopsis, but yes.
Yeah, I'm Bob Edwards. Brian, we only, Scott Martin's been out to our Ridgeside Farm.
Mhm.
You're familiar with that?
I've heard of Ridgeside, but I've never been at them.
Missionary Ridge Future National Park. You mentioned that Friday you're gonna have an event down Shalford Road. When is that? Is that right by the cemetery?
Yeah, right behind the cemetery.
What time is that?
That's gonna be 10 o'clock, and really, it's not a big event. Mayor Kelly's gonna come in. We got a table out there. He's gonna sign the covenants of transferring that land from basically Public Works and unused land over to us. And then those covenants will say nobody can build on it or.
I wish you could get, I wish you could get Mayor Kelly to come and visit our Ridgeside Farm. It would be the future national park, the third national park in Chattanooga. I'm gonna say you.
Bye. I appreciate it.
Well, I'm trying to get some. Somebody come talk to us, yeah.
Yeah, it's me, sitting, or Scott is one of those, it's obviously, it's our meeting, and I can come talk about city or what it is, what.
I think it's a big help. Yeah, it's
They're getting kids involved too, because I want to get more of the junior students.
We have gardens of child. We really care about education, stuff like that. I'm sure that we could arrange an event for you guys from our city as well.
Yeah.
So I'd love for you guys to come talk to us now about this movement. Do business card?
Yeah, I do, that's my card, the easier to get hold of me for something going through the site, so, but yeah, we'd love to do that, and if it's. And there's different avenues too, so we can do National Park City, but we have our natural resources team. Our Mark volunteer team as well. So it's because I want to get kids. So the next generation and officer places that they can go.
I think if you come in, staff is great. Awesome ideas.
Yeah,
All of it.
absolutely. I appreciate it. Thanks.
Good job.
Yeah.
Is there anybody it's like a must-have interview?
It's kind of like a random sort of the girl with the blue purse. You mean she used to be in television? She works with the state. Really helps out with a lot of quality and stuff. So she would be having a good one. I don't know how much she knows about this. I don't recognize anybody in here. Green spaces with his green shirt on. I talked about the beginning. He would be just pointing at.
I remember you.
It's that part where you made it sure Chattanooga, and I'm so glad.
There's more videos.
It's coming up later.
Oh.
I've said it.
Anyway, I'm Megan, and that's just, I work in.
Right.
So
Well, cool.
I was just.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. It's so good. It's pretty close, but at the end I found myself being like. "Yes, let's be filming it." Anyway, but Melanie's on vacation. I'm the one that's gonna be attending these meetings now, because I just thought I'd introduce myself. Oh, cool. I'm so glad the connection trail is moving through, because I was thinking too, like that. We were already talking about putting in some playground at him. That would be a good spot to. What's going on at Carruthers Park? Because I'm so livid with it. So.
Church there, I cannot think of.
Yeah.
It's like back there.
Oh, they put
And
it.
you expand into the park.
The park, that's one of those parks when you talk about the sad ones.
We're also looking at putting soccer pitch out there as well. Because it kind of goes back to like, what can we do there? We want to put walking trails, and it's like, not to be, it wasn't me, but it's like, not to be blunt, there's a highly Hispanic community out there, and play soccer. And then when, you don't want to be stereotypical, but they want to, and then we use the park, let's do that. So they're looking at doing that too with some of the capital funding and everything that we have. But as far as the garden thing goes, he just wants to expand out. Put in,
They just do it. They're just, it's so extreme.
I think like with the garden and stuff too, and we've done garden clubs and stuff before too, where they ask us, A lot of it is we have individuals or just a couple people that want to put in an acre, like over here at Harrison Johnson, we just got a request for that. We're like, who you are, I don't know what you've done before, how's this gonna go? Because lots of times we might do that and then there's not enough water, or after a year, they just get up and leave, and then we gotta take care of. So what?
And that's a lot, and we were. He'll put him in garden, it's such a. Homeless camp that we want to pick out. It's at first, and everything I did was to ask about that, because so many. It's halfway retired, but halfway to the side, so you don't know who he is, you definitely need it.
I would say have. Because we want to do, this, and like I meeting a couple weeks ago about Gardeners Coalition, I think there's a families there. But it was just like, we want to do all this, we just need the land. And it's like, we do have the land, that's some parameters and where we can put stuff. And what really kind of brought this up was like Howard High School wanted to take their gardens from their school, and bring it over to farms. Come to find out, they were kind of being kicked out off the Hamilton County grant land there because it just got disarray. So we're like, okay, well, how can we do this? We want to do that, kids to learn. I can we expand. So, and even if it's like Crabtree Farms, your private garden, but get something stupid with that. But yeah. Yeah, like that's kind of stuff, like, Green Bay Farm, not Ground, Green Bay to do something. Like those are private and we don't mind expanding things a little bit more, but the more community, like in the community be more involved. It's not just one person taking care of them. Cool. I appreciate it. So there'll be some more. We've done a lot of behind the scenes stuff. There haven't been as many monthly meetings as they used to be. So we're gonna start pushing that back up again because now we're going out. We got the story written for the most part. Now it's gonna be the phase 2. So we're gonna come back out and do more interviews and more video based. So cool. Okay. I appreciate it. Yes. I do. That's a super quick one. Okay, absolutely. I don't mind that because I'm afraid of your question.